On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Muhammad Ali, one of the most iconic sports figures of the 20th century, died of septic shock on June 3, 2016, at the age of 74, following a long battle with Parkinson's disease. His death, though not sudden, reverberated around the world, bringing a reflective pause to consider the life of a man who transcended boxing to become a global symbol of courage, conviction, and change. Ali's death from natural causes, complicated by decades of illness, mirrored both the physical toll of a brutal sport and the enduring fight of a man who refused to be silenced, whether by opponents in the ring or institutions outside of it. Diagnosed with Parkinson's in 1984, just 3 years after his retirement, Ali lived much of his post-boxing life as a quiet warrior, still appearing publicly when his body allowed, from lighting the Olympic flame in Atlanta in 1996 to advocating for humanitarian causes. His physical decline, juxtaposed with his larger-than-life legacy, illustrated the inevitable human struggle against time, even for those once deemed invincible. The immediate aftermath of Ali's passing was a global outpouring of grief and reverence. Leaders, athletes, and citizens from every corner of the world paid tribute to the greatest. His funeral in Louisville, Kentucky became a moment of national unity, attended by dignitaries and everyday fans alike. It was not merely the end of a sportsman's life, but the closing chapter of a transformative figure who had challenged racial inequality, opposed the Vietnam War, and embraced a new identity in his conversion to Islam. Ali's death did not shift the trajectory of history in the way a political assassination might, but it cemented his mythos. His life became a touchstone for discussions on race, religion, free speech, and resilience. In death, as in life, Ali became a vessel through which people grappled with societal values and personal integrity. We continue to immortalize Muhammad Ali through biographies, films, statues, and museum exhibits, not just as a champion in the ring, but as a champion of principles. His legacy endures because it speaks to the eternal human desire to stand for something greater than oneself. Ali showed the world that true greatness lies not only in physical strength but in moral courage, making his death a powerful moment of reflection on the nature of heroism, mortality, and memory. David Carradine, an actor whose career spanned decades and was marked by both acclaim and controversy, died on June 3, 2009, under circumstances as enigmatic as many of the roles he portrayed. Found dead in a Bangkok hotel room, Keredine's death was officially ruled accidental, resulting from autoerotic asphyxiation. The bizarre nature of his passing overshadowed much of his artistic legacy, provoking a media frenzy and public speculation. It was a deeply private moment, turned into a public spectacle, a reflection of the intrusive culture of celebrity in the 21st century. Keredine's death was emblematic of a broader cultural era that both glorifies and devours its icons. A son of the legendary John Carradine, David came to fame most notably through his role as Kwai Chang Caine in the 1970s television series Kung Fu, and later found renewed attention as the Deadly Bill in Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill films. He was known for portraying characters who bridged East and West, philosophy and violence, an embodiment of the countercultural search for spiritual identity during the 1970s. The immediate aftermath of his death was shaped more by sensational headlines than respectful remembrance. The unusual nature of his passing risked reducing his life's work to tabloid fodder. Yet, in the years since, many fans and colleagues have sought to refocus the narrative, celebrating Keredine's contributions to martial arts cinema, his eclectic artistry, and his embodiment of a generation's yearning for meaning and transcendence. Carradine's passing did not dramatically shift history, but it did spark discussions about mental health, fame, and privacy. His death invites reflection on how we, as a society, handle the frailties of those we idolize. In death, he remained a figure of contradiction, disciplined yet self-destructive, revered yet scrutinized. Ultimately, Carradine is immortalized not through the manner of his death, but through the iconic characters he brought to life. His face, voice, and presence endure in film and television. His influence echoed in generations of performers inspired by his fusion of mysticism and action. As with many complex figures, our memory of Carradine is layered, reminding us that to be human is to be imperfect, and that legacy is shaped not just by how one dies, but how one lived and connected with others through art. Franz Kafka, one of the most influential writers of the 20th century, died on June 3, 1924, at the age of 40 from complications of tuberculosis. His final months were marked by intense suffering as the disease attacked his throat, leaving him unable to eat or speak. He spent his last weeks in a sanatorium in Kirling, Austria, where he slowly succumbed to starvation. Kafka's death, like much of his writing, was steeped in themes of isolation, alienation, and bureaucratic indifference, ironically reflecting the very absurdities he so hauntingly captured in works like The Trial and The Metamorphosis. The era in which Kafka lived was one of upheaval and disillusionment. Born into a Jewish family in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, he experienced firsthand the tensions of a crumbling imperial system, the rise of industrial modernity, and deep existential uncertainties. His death did not make international headlines, nor did it immediately alter the course of history. In fact, Kafka had published little during his lifetime and had instructed his close friend and literary executor Max Brod to destroy his unpublished manuscripts. Thankfully, Brod ignored those wishes. Within years, Kafka's posthumous publications, including The Castle and The Trial, began to resonate profoundly with readers navigating the horrors of totalitarianism, war, and identity crises. Kafka's quiet, anonymous death was transformed by Brod's defiance into a turning point in literary history, eventually elevating Kafka to near mythic status as the prophet of modern anxiety. Kafka's death speaks to the broader human struggle with obscurity, legacy, and the hope for understanding. He died thinking himself a failure, unaware that his works would become essential reading for generations. The enduring power of his literature reveals a paradox. The most profound truths about society and the self often come from those who feel most powerless. We commemorate Kafka not through monuments or national holidays, but through constant reinterpretation. His name has become an adjective, Kafkaesque, a testament to how deeply his vision permeates our cultural consciousness. Literature classes, theatrical adaptations, and philosophical essays keep his legacy alive, transforming a life marked by quiet despair into an enduring commentary on the absurdities of the human condition. In Kafka's story, we find a poignant reminder. Death may be final, but the impact of a voice, especially one once silenced, can echo across centuries. Anthony Quinn, the Oscar-winning actor and global icon, died of respiratory failure on June 3, 2001, at the age of 86 in Boston, Massachusetts. Having lived a vibrant and tumultuous life, Quinn's death was a quiet conclusion to a career that had once roared across continents, cultures, and cinematic genres. His passing was natural, the result of complications from a long-standing battle with lung disease. Yet it signaled the end of an era for a generation of actors who brought raw physicality, cultural complexity, and authenticity to the screen during the golden age of Hollywood. Quinn, born in Mexico and raised in East Los Angeles, emerged as a symbol of cross-cultural expression in film. He often portrayed characters of many ethnicities: Greek, Arab, Italian, Native American, reflecting both Hollywood's lack of diversity and its hunger for Quinn's transformative ability. His death in 2001 occurred at a time when the entertainment industry was beginning to reckon with representation and the erasure of ethnic identities in casting. Quinn's legacy, built on versatility and intensity, underscored the challenges of navigating fame as an actor of color in a predominantly white industry. The immediate reaction to Quinn's death was one of reverence. Media across the globe highlighted his roles in Zorba the Greek, Lawrence of Arabia, and Viva Zapata, each of which had helped to redefine masculinity and cultural empathy on screen. While his death did not shift political tides or ignite public upheaval, it closed a chapter in Hollywood history where larger-than-life actors still bore the scars of real-world struggles: immigration, identity, and the search for belonging. Quinn's legend grew posthumously. Retrospectives, biographies, and museum exhibits highlighted not only his acting, but his work as a painter, writer, and activist. His dynamic portrayal of Zorba, dancing defiantly on the edge of tragedy, has become a lasting image of how to embrace life in all its unpredictability. His death, like his life, reminds us of mortality's universal grip, even on those who seem untouchable on screen. And yet, memory reclaims such figures. Through film festivals, archival footage, and continued academic interest, Anthony Quinn lives on, not as a myth, but as a man who, through art, embodied the full spectrum of the human experience. Jim Hines, the first man to officially break the 10-second barrier in the 100-meter dash, died on June 3, 2023 at the age of 76. His death, caused by natural causes, marked the quiet passing of a trailblazer whose impact on athletics rippled far beyond the track. Though not violent or sudden, Hines's death invited reflection on a moment of transcendence in sports history, when raw talent, determination, and racial pride converged at the height of the civil rights era. In 1968, at the Mexico City Olympics, Hines ran the 100 meters in 9.95 seconds, becoming the first athlete to do so electronically under 10 seconds. This achievement came during a time of global unrest, racial tension, and protest. The same Olympics witnessed the Black Power salute by Tommie Smith and John Carlos, a moment of political resistance against systemic racism in the United States. Hines, a black man representing his country in an era when equality was still being demanded rather than given, broke a barrier that was both athletic and symbolic. The immediate aftermath of Hines's Olympic triumph was a short-lived professional sports career, including a brief stint in the NFL. Despite his world record standing for nearly 15 years, Hines faded from public view. His death brought renewed attention to the weight of that 1968 race, not just for its record, but for what it meant during a time when African American athletes were asserting their place not only on the podium, but in society. Hines's death did not alter political trajectories, but it served as a poignant reminder of the quiet legends whose accomplishments speak louder over time. It revived discussions about recognition, legacy, and the fleeting nature of fame. Unlike other icons whose deaths become spectacles, Hines's passing was understated, yet it underscored the value of looking back to honor those who shifted paradigms in their prime. Humanity's relationship with mortality often seeks meaning in milestones. In Jim Hines, we see a man who reached the pinnacle of his sport at a turning point in American history. He is immortalized not through controversy or tragedy, but through a moment of speed, grace, and precision, captured forever in Olympic footage, athletic record books, and the collective memory of a world that still chases the limits he helped redefine. Rue McClanahan, beloved for her iconic role as Blanche Devereaux on The Golden Girls, passed away on June 3, 2010 at the age of 76 due to a stroke. Her death, while from natural causes, marked the end of an era for fans of classic television comedy and highlighted the profound cultural impact of a show that defied norms about aging, friendship, and female sexuality. McClanahan's passing came after a long career in theater and television, but it was The Golden Girls, a sitcom centered around 4 older women sharing a home in Miami, that defined her public persona. Blanche, the vivacious and flirtatious Southern belle, was a character that challenged societal perceptions of aging women. McClanahan played her with boldness and grace, offering a portrayal that was as comedic as it was empowering. Her death, coming only months after the deaths of co-stars Estelle Getty and B. Arthur, signaled a poignant close to a groundbreaking ensemble. The immediate aftermath of her death was a wave of tributes from fans and celebrities alike, commemorating her contribution to changing television's portrayal of older women. It reignited appreciation for The Golden Girls as a show ahead of its time, tackling issues such as ageism, LGBTQ+ rights, and women's independence with humor and heart. Rue McClanahan's death didn't shift geopolitical trajectories or cultural revolutions in a dramatic sense, but it did underscore a quieter legacy, one rooted in challenging outdated stereotypes. She became a symbol of the 1980s shifting attitudes toward women and aging, at a time when mainstream media rarely gave voice to such characters. Her portrayal reflected evolving values in an era of increasing feminist consciousness. The way we remember Rue McClanahan speaks volumes about how modern culture commemorates those who have shaped its voice. She is immortalized through reruns, memes, and cultural references that keep her spirit alive for new generations. Her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the tributes at fan conventions, and the enduring popularity of The Golden Girls all serve as living testaments to her legacy. In remembering Rue McClanahan, we are reminded that power and influence aren't always loud or revolutionary. Sometimes they're gently subversive, delivered through laughter and wit, and their echoes, just like McClanahan's unmistakable charm, endure. Clarence Fountain, the founding lead singer of the iconic gospel group The Blind Boys of Alabama, passed away from natural causes on June 3, 2018, at the age of 88. His death marked the end of an era in American music, closing the chapter on one of gospel's most enduring voices. Fountain, blind from birth due to illness, was not only a musical pioneer, but a testament to resilience in a segregated America, where African American performers had to navigate both artistic expression and systemic discrimination. Fountain's death reflected the challenges and values of the civil rights era, during which gospel music served as both a spiritual balm and a tool of resistance. Emerging in the 1940s and rising to prominence through the decades, the Blind Boys of Alabama sang with a passion that transcended their physical limitations and social constraints. Their music inspired audiences beyond the church, becoming a soundtrack for hope and determination. The immediate aftermath of Fountain's death was met with tributes from across the music world, particularly from artists influenced by gospel, soul, and rhythm and blues. His passing symbolized the loss of a generation of artists who had lived through Jim Crow and used music to uplift and unite. Although his death did not cause political upheaval or shift national trajectories, it served as a powerful cultural reminder of the role that spiritual music played in America's long and unfinished journey toward justice and equality. Fountain's legend was amplified in death by the recognition of his life's work, a career that spanned more than 70 years, including Grammy wins and performances for presidents. His story, and that of the Blind Boys, is preserved not only through recordings but also in documentaries, tributes at gospel festivals, and educational programs that trace the roots of American music. In reflecting on Fountain's death, we are reminded of humanity's deep connection to art as both expression and legacy. Mortality often crystallizes greatness, pushing us to preserve and elevate what might have once been taken for granted. We immortalize figures like Clarence Fountain, not just in accolades, but in the enduring spirit of their music. Through their voices, history sings, and the echoes of those songs continue to shape how we remember, resist, and rejoice. William Russell, the esteemed American actor best known for his role as a founding cast member of Doctor Who, passed away on June 3, 2022, at the remarkable age of 96. His death was natural, a peaceful departure that reflected the quiet dignity of a career spent not in the bombastic spotlight, but in steady, meaningful contribution to British and American stage and screen. Russell's passing did not cause global upheaval, yet it marked the end of a living link to the origins of one of the most enduring science fiction series in television history. Cast as Ian Chesterton in Doctor Who in 1963, Russell was part of a revolutionary era in British television, a time when post-war optimism met Cold War anxieties, and stories of time travel, alien civilizations, and moral dilemmas offered both escapism and subtle social commentary. The 1960s were an age when science fiction began to grapple with humanistic themes, and Russell's character, a rational and courageous schoolteacher, grounded the fantastical elements of the show in a relatable moral compass. His portrayal reflected a time when education, rationalism, and bravery were held as cultural ideals, and the show itself became a mirror to the values and fears of the era. The immediate response to Russell's death was a wave of nostalgic tributes from fans, actors, and producers who recognized his foundational role in a cultural juggernaut. While he may not have remained in the public eye throughout his later years, his death reawakened appreciation for Doctor Who's early years and the pioneering actors who helped launch its legacy. Russell's passing invites reflection on how we remember and honor those who quietly shaped our cultural consciousness. His legacy, like many from early television history, is preserved through archival footage, documentaries, and the devoted memories of fan communities. These acts of commemoration, through conventions, retrospectives, and character revivals, demonstrate how art continues to bridge generational gaps, keeping memory alive. Ultimately, the death of William Russell reminds us that while fame may flicker, influence endures. In remembering such figures, we confront the gentle truth of mortality and the powerful role memory plays in shaping cultural continuity. Through storytelling, whether on screen or in tribute, we grant them a kind of immortality, anchored not in spotlight, but in the hearts of those they moved. James Arness, the towering actor best known for his role as U.S. Marshal Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke, died of natural causes on June 3, 2011, at the age of 88 in Los Angeles, California. His death marked the end of an era in American television, as Arness was not just a star, but a symbol of a cultural ideal, the stoic, principled Western hero. Arness's death reflected the quiet dignity with which he lived his post-Hollywood years. Having become a household name in the 1950s and 60s, he embodied the values of mid-20th century America: rugged individualism, moral clarity, and a sense of justice rooted in personal responsibility. These were ideals that resonated in a post-World War II society seeking stability and clear role models during the tumultuous Cold War years. As Marshal Dillon, Arness offered viewers a consistent moral center amidst shifting political and social landscapes. The immediate aftermath of Arness's passing was marked by a wave of tributes from fans and colleagues alike, especially those who had grown up with Gunsmoke as a staple of their weekly routine. The show had run for 20 seasons, one of the longest-running primetime dramas in U.S. history, and helped shape television's golden age. His death did not shift history's course in the conventional sense, but it did draw attention to the fading legacy of the classic Western, a genre that had once dominated American storytelling. Arnis's legend was amplified not through scandal or sensationalism, but through steadfastness. Rarely giving interviews and avoiding Hollywood's social scene, he became a cultural fixture not by force of personality, but by the integrity of his characters and the quiet consistency of his performances. In an age of increasing celebrity spectacle, Arnis remained an exception, a reminder of a time when fame was rooted in character rather than controversy. In remembering James Arnis, we glimpse how humanity seeks to enshrine its heroes, not just through awards or reruns, but through the values they came to represent. Statues, retrospectives, and streaming archives now preserve his image, but the deeper memorial lies in the idea of the American cowboy, gritty, fair, and unflinchingly honest. His passing invites reflection on how we measure greatness, not by the volume of noise one makes, but by the steadiness with which one holds the line. Jack Kavorian, often dubbed Dr. Death, died of natural causes on June 3, 2011 at the age of 83 in a Michigan hospital. He succumbed to complications from liver and kidney problems, conditions that had plagued him in his later years. The manner of his death, natural and in a hospital setting, stood in stark contrast to the controversial life he had led advocating for physician-assisted suicide. For a man who had helped over 100 terminally ill patients end their lives on their own terms, dying in the conventional way was both ironic and revealing of the larger battle over death, dignity, and autonomy that defined his legacy. Kavorian came to national attention in the 1990s, when his defiance of legal and medical norms surrounding euthanasia sparked intense ethical debate. He challenged the medical establishment and legal system, arguing that terminal patients had the right to die with dignity. His actions, many captured on videotape and broadcast on national television, provoked widespread discussion about the morality of life-ending medical assistance and led to his imprisonment in 1999 after administering a lethal injection on camera. His death did not dramatically shift historical trajectories, but it reignited conversations about end-of-life care, autonomy, and the role of physicians in managing death. Kavorian's passing reminded the public of unresolved issues in healthcare ethics, especially in an aging society where chronic illness and suffering are prevalent. His name became synonymous not just with controversy, but with the uncomfortable confrontation between modern medicine's ability to prolong life and the human desire for a peaceful, dignified end. In death, Kavorian's legend was paradoxically both amplified and softened. Tributes and critiques poured in, reflecting the polarization he had provoked. Some hailed him as a pioneer of compassion. Others condemned his methods as dangerous and unethical. Over time, however, his role as a catalyst for dialogue has become more appreciated, especially as legislation around assisted dying has advanced in various states and countries. Kavorian's legacy lives on in film, biography, and medical ethics courses. He is commemorated not with statues or national holidays, but through the ongoing debate he helped bring into the public eye. His story reveals how society grapples with mortality not only as a biological endpoint, but as a deeply personal, political, and philosophical challenge, one that reflects our most fundamental values about life, autonomy, and the right to choose one's end. Koko Taylor, known as the Queen of the Blues, died of natural causes on June 3, 2009 at the age of 80. Her death marked the end of an era for Chicago blues, a genre she helped define with her powerful, raw vocal style and commanding stage presence. Taylor's passing reflected both the challenges of aging musicians and the enduring values of the blues tradition, a genre rooted in resilience, emotional honesty, and the lived experiences of African American communities. Taylor's death was a natural one, occurring after a lifetime of touring, recording, and performing in an often grueling music industry that historically offered little support for artists, especially Black women. She had suffered a stroke in 2006, but continued to inspire fans with her indomitable spirit until her final days. Her passing highlighted the era's struggles with healthcare and the physical toll that a life of relentless artistry can take, especially for musicians who often worked long into their later years. The immediate consequences of Taylor's death were felt deeply in the blues community and beyond. Tributes poured in from fellow musicians, fans, and cultural institutions, acknowledging her as a vital link in the lineage of American music. Her death amplified her legend, as posthumous recognition often does, cementing her role as a pioneering female voice in a male-dominated genre. In many ways, Taylor's legacy helped shift broader cultural awareness toward the contributions of women in blues and the importance of preserving this distinctly American art form. Taylor's death also underscored the bittersweet reality of mortality, how artists who sing about life's hardships eventually face their own final chapter. Yet, through her recordings, live performances, and awards, including a Grammy, she achieved a form of immortality. She is remembered not only in music halls, but in the narratives of cultural perseverance and expression. Humankind's way of immortalizing figures like Koko Taylor, through art, biography, and commemoration, speaks to a deep desire to connect with the stories of those who give voice to collective emotions. By celebrating her life in music, we affirm the enduring power of blues to convey humanity's struggles with mortality, pain, and hope, ensuring that her spirit continues to resonate for generations to come. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini's death on June 3, 1989, was a pivotal moment in modern Iranian and global history. Khomeini died of natural causes, complications related to heart disease, at the age of 86. His death marked the end of a controversial and transformative era defined by his role as the architect of the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which overthrew the pro-Western Shah and established the Islamic Republic of Iran. The circumstances of his passing reflected both the fragility of mortal life and the enduring power of ideological leadership in an era fraught with Cold War tensions, religious political upheaval, and regional conflict. Khomeini's death came after nearly a decade of exerting near-absolute influence over Iran's theocratic government. Despite his declining health, he remained a symbol of unwavering resistance to Western influence and a champion of Islamic governance. His passing revealed the challenge of sustaining revolutionary zeal beyond the life of a charismatic leader. The transition of power posed immediate questions about the future trajectory of Iran, whether the rigid ideological regime he established could adapt or would ossify. The immediate consequence of Khomeini's death was a massive outpouring of grief in Iran, where millions mourned the supreme leader. His funeral drew millions, a spectacle that underscored his monumental influence, but also highlighted deep divisions within Iranian society between reformists and hardliners vying for control. Internationally, his death sparked uncertainty about Iran's policies and its role in the Middle East, as Western powers and regional actors recalibrated their strategies in the absence of his singular authority. Khomeini's death amplified his legend, transforming him into a near-mythic figure for supporters who viewed him as a spiritual guide and defender of Islamic values against Western imperialism. Simultaneously, critics remembered him as a harsh autocrat whose regime suppressed dissent and curtailed freedoms. His passing thus intensified debates about power, ideology, and the cost of revolutionary change. This event reveals humanity's complex relationship with mortality and power, how leaders become larger than life, and how their deaths trigger both collective mourning and political uncertainty. We immortalize figures like Khomeini through religious symbolism, political rhetoric, literature, and public commemoration, embedding their legacies within cultural memory. Through these acts, societies negotiate the tension between honoring the past and confronting the future, illustrating how death is both an end and a catalyst for ongoing historical narratives. Pope John XIII, born Angelo Giuseppe Roncalli, died on June 3, 1963, from natural causes linked to stomach cancer. His death marked the end of a brief but transformative papacy, one deeply reflective of the turbulent social and religious shifts of the early 1960s. At 81, John XIII's passing was not sudden, but came after months of declining health, and it resonated profoundly with Catholics worldwide during a time when the Catholic Church was navigating modernity's challenges. John XIII's era was defined by a church seeking relevance amid rapid global changes. Post-World War II reconstruction, the Cold War tensions, and burgeoning calls for social justice and ecumenism. His decision to convene the Second Vatican Council in 1962 signaled a bold move toward aggiornamento, or bringing up to date, aimed at modernizing the Church's practices and opening dialogue with the wider world. His death, therefore, symbolized a poignant moment between tradition and renewal as the Church awaited the Council's continuation under his successor. The immediate consequence of John XIII's passing was a worldwide outpouring of mourning, highlighting his reputation as a warm, pastoral pope, affectionately nicknamed Good Pope John. His death generated a collective sense of loss, but also hope, as the reforms he initiated promised a new era for Catholicism. The conclave that followed elected Pope Paul VI, who would carry forward the Vatican II reforms, confirming that John XIII's legacy extended far beyond his lifespan. John XIII's death amplified his legend as a humble, compassionate leader who courageously guided the Church through a critical period. Unlike pontiffs whose deaths triggered political intrigue or crisis, his passing reflected an era's aspiration for renewal and openness. The way he is remembered, through art, writings, and the canonization as a saint, underscores humanity's desire to preserve figures who embody both spiritual authority and approachable humanity. This commemoration reveals much about mortality and power, how religious figures, through their deaths, become symbols of continuity amid change, reminding us that memory and faith intertwine to sustain communities. Through statues, portraits, hymns, and liturgy, John XIII's legacy endures, illustrating how death can elevate a leader's influence and inspire generations beyond their earthly life.